All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's great to have you on today, and we've got a lot of guests today. I opened this webinar up to people that are not members of our mastermind group, just because I think this is a story that a lot of people would be interested in hearing, and so I'm excited about that. So for those of you that are involved in our group, if this is your first webinar, welcome. I'm Jordan Tong, and I'm the owner of France Building Services. And we're a janitorial company based out of Western Kentucky, and have about 600 or 700 employees, and do close to 15 mil in business in 3 or 4 states. And but part of what I do, for those of you that are guests here today, we have a janitorial mastermind group. That's basically a web-based group where we learn together and we interact with our peers, our peer owners in the industry. And part of what we do every month is a webinar like today. And it's usually a high level topic on something related to leadership in the commercial janitorial industry. And but today we got something a little bit unique in that my friend and also a member of our group and someone I've been friends with for quite a while is going to be sharing her story. And so I'm excited to give you guys the opportunity to hear that. So Lillian, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we got to know each other maybe starting about 2 or 3 years ago. Is that right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So we were both involved in another coaching group that is a national organization that Lillian and I were both in, and got connected through that and developed a relationship. And so we have a lot of things in common. So I'm excited for you guys to hear her story. And one of the things for us as business owners, we're oftentimes alone on an island, is what it feels like. And I know many of y'all can relate to that. We feel like we're running our businesses day to day, and we often don't have the ability to connect with other people because everybody else in the organization works for us. And one of the things that can be helpful and inspiring is to hear the story of somebody else and how they got from where they were to where they are now. Because we all know it's a struggle to grow, and oftentimes leadership can just feel like a grind. So if we can ever step back away and hear someone else's story, it can really inspire us to try some new things and maybe hit that next plateau. So Lillian, I'm going to let you get started to introduce yourself and then get into your presentation.
Great. Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here and to do this webinar for Jordan. I'm also a learner here at the group, so I love to hear everybody's stories. But today I'm here to share a little bit of mine and to answer to any questions you may have. So I am from Brazil, like Jordan mentioned, and I came to the United States when I was 17 years old. I used to play professional volleyball in Brazil, and then the coach from University of Arkansas went there to select 5 players and offer full scholarship, and then accepted. And but I was the only one out of the 5 that passed English test that he had to take. And so here I am. I went from Brazil. I am from São Paulo, and I went to Arkansas. There's like a little picture when I used to play, and I stayed there for 4 years. On my last year, I met my husband. He's also from Brazil, but he's been living in the United States for 25 years. And we started dating, and he and his family were living in Massachusetts. When we decided to get engaged, he asked me if he wants me to move to Arkansas or if I would move to Massachusetts. And I packed on that same day. Didn't want to stay in Arkansas. um, so in 2005, we got married in Massachusetts. And in 2006, that's when we started our company.
Okay, great. So, and Lillian, is all of your family, do they still live in Brazil?
Eventually, I have a sister that lives in Kansas City, and my dad lives in Florida, but my mom is in Brazil. She comes once or twice a year, and uncles and cousins, all that is still in Brazil.
Okay, okay. Just for a frame of reference, just to kind of to maybe help us a little bit. So Sao Paulo, that's the capital of Brazil, correct?
No, São Paulo is sort of like the New York here. It's
Okay.
like all the international flights goes through there. It's very popular, but no, there's Brasilia is the capital. but São Paulo is very popular. So you can picture coming from New York to Arkansas was my biggest challenge, and in adapt to a new country and also a new lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
picture of our. Yeah, that's me, my husband, and my two kids.
Okay. Good deal. So you guys moved to Massachusetts in 2006 or 2007, is that right?
I moved to Massachusetts right after college. That was in 2004. Got married in 2005, and my husband started a company in 2006.
Okay. Okay. So let's fast forward here and let's talk about from maybe the time that your husband started the company and then how you got involved and maybe start
Mhm.
taking us down that journey there.
Sure. So in 2006, he found a partner that had a cleaning company in the Boston area. For those of you that don't know, Boston is on the east coast of Massachusetts, and he pretty much had a company just in that area. And we lived in Central Mass, and so the partner and my husband saw the potential to grow the company in Central Mass. So my husband will be more operations, and the partner will do the sales. They start knocking on doors and got their first, second, third accounts that way. And in 2009, they realized they have different styles, different values. So my husband asked to split. And in the meanwhile, I had my job in sales and eventually went to be sales manager. And when they decided to split, the partner asked my husband, "So if we split, who's gonna do the sale for you?" And then my husband said, "Well, my wife." And the partner laughed because he said, "No, this industry is more for tough guys, and she won't succeed." And the problem is that I heard that conversation, so that triggered me to, show different. And back then we didn't have any kids, so we thought that would be a good timing to risk. So I had a good paying job with bonus and benefits, but I left that job to basically take over all the sales and business development for the company in
Okay.
2010.
Yeah, and so all right, so Lillian, so they started in 2006 or 7 and did they start from scratch with no business at all?
Right. The partner had some experience with this company in Boston, but in Central Mass, there was like no reference or anything. Back on those days was still okay for you to just show up and knock on doors, I guess. But that's how they did.
Okay.
So our
And so
our first
and so what were
account
some of
was
those
a
accounts that they picked up initially? What were some of those first pieces of business that they had?
right. So the very first one was YWCA that has like a gym space and a daycare on the basement. And the second account was like another small gym. It's called Gold's Gym. And the third one's a daycare. So all like small size accounts. And they were just asking, let me come in, let me do a demo, let me show you how we can do better. So my husband used to work at Citizens Bank during the day, and then at night he'll go clean, or he and an employee will come and clean. And sometimes the same person that saw him at the bank during the day will see him at night because he will go to the workout at the gym. So it's like, what happened to your suit and tie? And then he's always answer like, when you own your business, you pretty much have to wear all different hats, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, good deal. And so and just out of curiosity, what was their reason for deciding to split? Because I know a lot of people get involved in partnerships early on and there's some struggle
Mhm.
and we all know
Mhm.
if we've been in any sort of partnership at all that there's a lot of issues that can crop up. So what was it that led to them saying, "Hey, it's going to be best for us to part ways"?
Correct. One of the things that we both didn't agree on it when you started, cash is tight. We didn't start with an investor or an angel investor or rich daddy or anything like that. We started from our own pockets and our own bank accounts. So the partner, he would usually like get the money, do something else. Let's say go find new business and not pay employees on time. And sometimes employees will be delayed like 2 3 weeks in payment. And my husband was totally opposite. He's like, let's pay the employees first, and then if whatever we have left, we can go do something else. You have to juggle when you're startup. And that was one of the main reasons.
Okay. Okay. So just a difference in operating style and the way you wanted to manage cash and money. And it sounds like maybe even some ethical things as well.
Right, right, yeah. The employees are working hard. They're working overnight. So the minimum you can do for them is to pay on time, treat them fairly. And when my husband moved to United States, one of his first jobs was to help his dad do some cleaning. And he was 13, 14. He would go to like a part time at night, and he always felt mistreated by the supervisors. So he thought that one day, if he had his company, he'd certainly treat people differently. So finally, he's starting up his company, and he didn't feel right to treat people that way.
Mm, yeah. So I want to maybe key in on something that you said that it really intrigues me here. So when they split, or a couple things actually. So number one, you guys decided to go at this, um, leaving your full-time job. So what did your when you first left your full-time job, what was your all's income at that point between the two of you? Whenever, and I just mean on a personal level, what were y'all bringing home maybe in that first year after you quit your sales manager position?
$300 per week. I remember that very well.
Okay, okay. So things were very tight. Did y'all have your own apartment or house, or were you living with somebody then? I know it's hard to live in Massachusetts, I would assume, on $300 a week.
Right. I still had a little bit of savings from my job because I would get heavy bonuses. So we had some savings that would pay for our rent for about a year. We had like a more expensive car, a Subaru SUV, Subaru, and so we went to the. I remember going to the store and say, we need to return this car, and we want your cheapest car in the store, and that was like a Honda Fit. And my husband's 6'3" and I'm 6 feet, so like us two people don't think that us two could fit in the Honda Fit, but it worked. It worked, and we still have that car, and we even joke with the company how much that car brought us, and have some history behind it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then the other thing that you mentioned that, and this would specifically apply to our ladies that are on the phone, is so your husband's former partner, I guess, didn't think you as a a woman were capable of being a, able to sell or be a leader in our industry at all. And you talked about, I know you're an athlete, so competition's a big deal to you.
Right.
So maybe talk a little bit about what you felt then and your determination uh, to prove him wrong in that.
Right, because when you say that this industry is for tough men, and with my sales background, I keep thinking, no, it's not about the way you look. It's about people trusting in you. So let me try and prove him that he's wrong. But I'll try many different ways before, and if I fail, then maybe he's right. But I wouldn't give up trying until I can, prove that he was wrong. But that was not my only motivation. Of course, I want us to grow the company, and at least we can leave off the company, and at least getting some earnings where we can pay our bills. But that was a good starting point.
Yeah, great. That's great. Now, and before we move on to maybe talking about when you guys started to that growth, what was the size of the company when that split happened and you started working in it? What was y'all's annual revenue at that point?
350,000. We had four accounts.
Okay. Okay. So 350K annually and four accounts. So let's
Mhm.
move on to, so you joined in 2010. So it's about 9 years
Mhm.
ago. So walk me through that growth process, and then we'll kind of, I know later on in our presentation we'll talk about two or three key things along the way uh, that were really important for you guys. But walk me through the growth of the organization and what that looked like.
Sure. So yeah, so I remember sitting on my home office with those four accounts and thinking how we can grow from there. On my previous job, I did many like sales classes, and I thought I became good in sales. But we used to sell granite countertops, quartz countertops, which is different than selling cleaning. I remember walking stores and they would say, "This is the granite girl coming," and now this is the cleaning girl coming. you know, it was different, but I use the same methods. So I started using the referral base. So one of the four accounts was a dialysis center that we only got because one of the nurses was a friend of ours. We used to go to the same church. She's the one that helped us get that contract. So I looked online, and just in Massachusetts alone, they had like 20 locations. So I started calling each one of them and using this one location that we clean as a referral, and it worked. We ended up on that same year cleaning three other dialysis, for example. And same thing with the YWCA. I started calling YWCAs and YMCAs in the state, and using this one as an example and as a referral. And we ended up getting more. Like today, we clean 39 YMCAs in Massachusetts.
Okay, great. So you started with, and we talk about this some in our group, Lillian, and I know with a lot of the sales um, coaching calls that I do, one of the things we talk about is leveraging something that you already have and that you're already good at to grow your business. So instead
Right.
of looking at, I mean, Massachusetts has a huge population. In Boston, there's a ton of business, and you could easily get overwhelmed with where in the world do I even start? But you guys
Right.
started with, here's what we have and here's what we're good at. Now let's build upon that in a very intentional kind of way. So I guess you guys didn't just do a shotgun approach to Massachusetts. You were really um, specific in
Right.
how you started to grow from the beginning.
Right. That came actually from like a mentor of mine, and then in sales training they talk about how you want to focus in one niche because every day you're talking the same language, you know the same problems that they have, how to you're going to help them resolve the same problems. If you start in the morning calling medical facilities and you end the day calling schools, you end up in a round of all your sales speech and things that they like to hear. So I always went to one industry and focus on that, um, and then try to call everybody in Massachusetts in that industry. And then I might went to Rhode Island and south of New Hampshire, for example, because being in Central Mass, it helped us as well because in 1 hour I'm in Boston, 1 hour in Providence, Rhode Island, 1 hour I'm in Hartford, Connecticut. So I have all these big cities around us. So we did cover like a 60-mile radius around.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and so let me just, as a point of takeaway for those listening, I think what you said, Lillian's right on, that in sales, probably the best way to grow is to learn to be able to say no to a lot of stuff and to focus on a niche. And there's
Right.
a lady that I have followed for a long time that's a marketing consultant. One of the things she always has said is that the riches are in the niches, and that basically you
Right.
want to find a client base and learn them well and learn how to serve them well, and you'll be better at serving them, and therefore you're more likely to grow in that area. Uh, so, well,
Right.
good
And,
deal. So,
and that
so you
doesn't mean you have
guys,
to stay. Sorry. It doesn't mean you have to stay on that niche forever. I mean, it could be for a period of time. And after you outgrow that area, yes, you have all the clients you want on the areas you want. Now you can maybe choose a different niche. But some people are afraid that they will only do medical for the rest of their life or only do office building. you can alternate sometime.
Yeah, so let's talk about, so I've got and the lines between these dots aren't showing up for some reason, but let's talk about the growth over the last um, 8 or 9 years,
Mhm.
and just kind of walk me through. Let's look at the sales side first, and then we'll turn to what that looked like on an operational end and some of the struggles and trials you guys went through to be able to hold on to that growth. Because if any of you are looking here, I mean, between 2015 and 2019, I mean, your company
Mhm.
got turned upside down. And,
Yeah.
huge changes. So let's walk through the sales growth over that time period and
Mhm.
and how you guys did it and what that looked like.
Sure. I think the difference from 15 to 19, we started to focus in larger size of accounts, and we talk about that at the BSC Mastermind Group a lot, right?
Mhm.
How finding the 10K plus accounts per month, even like 40, 50 accounts, it makes you grow faster, makes you run your company better. So that's when we start focusing. Okay, we have enough experience in cleaning with the small to medium size accounts. Let's now focus in large size accounts. And because I owned certifications for being woman owned, in 2015, 16, I started getting some large government accounts that were like 30, 40K per month.
Mhm.
And that helped me with the growth. And I could use those accounts as a referral when I'm bidding in other large accounts. But even with this amount of growth, we had to say no, even to large accounts too. It's not that, everything comes to the door, it's a good account. So even saying no, we were able to grow. And at 2015, we had a better website. I am part of multiple network places that I go to. So then the sales eventually, not only from referrals, will come from multiple channels, which you talk a lot about when we do coaching, right, Jordan?
Mhm. Yeah. So what was do you feel like from 2015 to 19 that, there's obviously a large upswing there. Was that really from focusing on, so two things. You had the the minority business or woman-owned business, and you started really focusing
Hmm.
on larger accounts. Were those two things really the thing that made that trajectory so large in the last 4 years?
Right. And I think also I started working on the business and in the business up until 2014. I was the one doing sales. I was the one visiting clients during the day. I was trying to manage the schedule. You know how it works. You're doing
Hmm.
multiple hats. But then in 2015, that's when we were about 2 or 3 million. We were able to do hire operations manager, hire good quality supervisors. So then I felt more freedom to do more business development than to focus on the day-to-day operations.
Okay.
So once I
No, and
started
that's good.
focusing more on that. Mhm.
That's really good. I think that as I hear your story, Lillian, and as I have talked to other contractors in the industry, I think that's a common plateau is
Yeah.
the owner operator is wearing a lot of hats, and it usually between that $1.5 to $3 million range. So when you can get up to that spot and you're willing to reinvest that money back in the business, and Lillian, I knew your financials then, and I know you
Yes.
guys went through a
Yeah.
time where you were struggling, but you were also trying to reinvest in the business. And as
Right.
we reinvest, we can begin to put some of those people components in place that allows you to break out of that plateau in that $2 to $3 million range. And for us, it was at exactly the same point in time that our trajectory started to go. Our growth map looked a lot like yours, and it had that upswing right about the same time. So let's talk about and again, that map really tracks with your employee growth that you can see here on this graph. So talk about some of the operational challenges leading up to that big growth, and maybe some of those things you guys put into place from an operations standpoint that helped you maintain some of that growth.
Right. One thing that a mentor always taught me was like whenever you're ready to hire management team or your leadership team, make sure you hire people better than you, especially on the area they're going to be working on it. So I remember hiring my office manager that was going to do also bookkeeping for us, and like doing doing bookkeeping. That was one of the things I hated the most that I had to do in the beginning, like creating invoices and reconciling and that kind of thing. So I make sure that I hire someone really good with numbers and really good, with office management. And then same concept across the board. Somebody good in operations, somebody good for HR. Because not being afraid of hiring people better than you, because they are the ones that are gonna change your company for the better and bring better ideas for their department. And so my job was really to focus in finding the right person for the right seat.
Hmm, great. That's great. Did you guys have any people on your team early on that were not a good fit as you began to grow? I know a lot of people, have some people in the organization, and as they grow, they realize those people are not going to be good long-term fits. Did you guys have some sifting of people on your team that you had to go through?
Yes, yeah. I know long time ago I read this book called Good to Great. Very popular, very well-known book. And it talks about the best CEOs that were able to have a great company because if they had to fire their brother-in-law, they would, right? It's all about having the right person at the right seat. It's the key to make the company grow. So as I was reading the book, I kept thinking about this regional manager that I have that it wasn't a good fit. His ideas, his leadership style, um, the way that he would say yes all the time to the clients. The clients never heard a no from him, I guess. um, can you work more hours? Yes. Can you do this? Can you do this extra work at no cost? Yes. And so as I was reading the book, I kept saying, yeah, he's not the right fit and he's not on the right mentality. So, but everybody, he was a very nice and friendly guy. There was nothing wrong specifically with him as far as respect and integrity, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I let him go, he was like shocked, because he felt that he was friends with everybody. But the managers that I put in his place are more like business wide and think more like the company. So sometimes you do have to make those tough decisions. Otherwise, your company won't grow and won't move forward the way you want it to.
Yeah. So let's maybe we're going to kind of shift gears just a little bit and start looking at things that are maybe a little bit more personal or related to leadership and culture and values and that sort of thing. So maybe talk a little
Mhm.
bit about this slide here, the struggles for being a woman owned, and maybe talk a little bit about that part of your story.
Sure. Um, because so I joined the company in 2010, and we started growing. And then in 2011, my husband decided that he wanted to go to finish his college because we hired like two supervisors that were doing sort of his job in operations. So he never finished college before. So I was like, let me do this now, because I felt the company is running, operational wise is good. So I took the company 100% in my name, and that's when I felt okay. I have to run this alone now, but my husband's trusting me. He always joked that I was his best hire, and eventually 2 years ago he got back to our company and I said that he was my best hire. So we joked like that. But I was 26 years old trying to run the company. I would come to bring a proposal to the table, and in those walkthroughs you have 5 to 10 different companies with you, and there were more male predominant. I was probably the only woman in the group and much older. I remember a guy coming to me and saying, don't come to me saying you have 10 years of experience in cleaning because you probably were in high school 10 years ago. And he was right. So how do I get these people to trust, like how they used to call me, this young lady? trying to bring me a proposal. So I had to go above and beyond to show that we were capable of. I remember going to my own clients, taking pictures, making videos of them doing testimonies and sharing that on my presentations, because I said if people would look at me and don't trust me, they probably trust the results and the quality of my work. So I had to be more creative in order to, propose and bring the proposals. And because I know that probably they wouldn't trust this young lady coming to the doors. I used to hear that a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and the second part that I can remember that was very, very difficult for me, that's when I got pregnant in the end of 2011. And here I am with this big belly trying to run the company, doing sales and HR and all that. And, and I remember being breastfeeding, doing payroll at the same time. And you try, to do, and even though my husband is a great father, there are certain things I couldn't do, right? Breastfeeding is one of them, for example. I have this very memory. I'm trying to breastfeed and I have a laptop and a mouse doing payroll because it's due, in half an hour. So just juggling life through those, seasons where you have small babies, you have a company that rely on you for many different hats. And still not going crazy, or that was one time in my life that I was like, I can't wait for this to be, for the next couple of years, because I'm struggling.
Hmm.
But we survived. I survived. I have a very good church that was supporting me, and my husband's family was supporting me, and my husband's trying to support me the best way he could. So now we're in a much better situation, but I remember 2011, 12, 13 wasn't so easy because of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess maybe our takeaway here is that it's, number one, if you are married, and this would be for a man or woman, having a strong, good marriage
Yes.
is really important for a leader. I mean, I once heard, and this was in reference to men here, but behind every great man is always a greater or a better woman. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I think the flip side would be true too, that if a wife is flourishing, usually there's a very loving and supportive husband behind her as well. And
Right.
so
Mhm.
that's important. And, other relationships, whether it's church or friends or whatever, those things, we neglect those oftentimes because our focus is so on the business a lot. But having those other healthy relationships can really help us weather some of these tougher times.
Right, exactly. And I would agree 100%. If it wasn't for my supporting husband and family friends around me, I probably would have made it. I would either give up on my family or give up on the business.
Yeah. So let's. I know something, Lillian, that's been really important for me and important for you is, and this kind of ties into that support staff and you've mentioned this several times. You've mentioned mentors, you've mentioned coaching, you've mentioned, our group, you mentioned C12. Talk to me a little bit about how important mentoring relationships or getting coaching or being involved in these types of groups has. Talk about how that's influenced your ability to get where you guys are at today.
Sure. I would start with C12. That's very close. C12, it's a group for Christian CEOs, and I can't tell you enough stories on struggles that I had or questions that I had that this group came along and helped me with advices. These are a bunch of CEOs that they can work like your board of directors, for example, but they have the same lifestyles and understand what you're going through. And in this case, we're all Christians, so we all have Christian values. So we meet once a month. In the morning, we do devotionals and we pray for each other. But in the afternoon, we talk about businesses and any issues that we may have. We dive into each other's business once a month, once a year, so we can have a 360 look of how your business is going, doing cash-wise and sales and organizational and development. So I would say that belonging to a group that can give you advices and can hold your hand when you need it to, it's very, very important.
Mm.
Because we're not experts in every area of our company, but having someone next to you say, hey, I've been through that. Here are some tips and do's and don'ts that I learned in my experience. So that's incredible. That's very powerful.
Yeah, that's great. And I know Lillian, you've been involved in the BSCI. I know I've seen you at one of their conventions, and then you're
Hmm.
obviously a part of our mastermind group. And
Hmm.
I know that for you, and you can maybe just speak to this for a second, but being involved in industry related either coaching or leadership or learning or peer opportunities has been helpful as well. I know for me, and I think it has for you as well.
Right. Yeah, our group here, for those of you that don't belong to our group, it's so instrumental. Like we have this dashboard that people are posting daily basis. Question any kind of questions. Sometimes you're running your business and this issue comes to your mind, and then you look to the side like you don't even know who to ask because this person doesn't know about cleaning. This person doesn't know what I'm going through. So then you have this group that you can post a question, and boom, you have multiple answers from people that are understanding your background. You don't even need to explain the background because we're all in the same industry. Plus, cleaning has been changing so fast. So the BSCI conferences and the fairs that we go through, I felt that was one of our differentiators in our company,
Hmm.
because we're always on top of the latest technology and what's the latest resources, the latest cleaning chemicals out there. And that was important because I go to those conferences and I come back and share with our team and with our clients. This is where we learn different. We can use this machine now for your building. What do you think? And it's very important to be up to date to our industry. And the BSCI Mastermind Group not only have this dashboard, but they have small groups. They have you, Jordan, as a coach, which I'm very thankful to. I remember being in a very difficult spot as far as my cash flow and my P&L, and you helped me looking line by line and how we turn around because of the one-on-one coaching. I will always remember that and be thankful for that. So the beauty of it, Jordan, like you being through where I am, you know exactly how to help me because you are on the same spot. So it's much easier than just picking a random coach or mentor out from the street.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. You're making me blush over here. So, but I'm with you. All these groups, I mean, even our group, I'm just so thankful for all the people that are involved in it. I'm really thankful for BSCAI. When our company started, my grandparents joined the BSCI when it was just the two of them when they were really small. And so the BSCI has been, just a big blessing for us. And I'd encourage everybody to go to the annual conference and just get to know members there as well. And then C12 has been a big help for me as well. So Lillian, let's maybe move on to, and we'll kind of wrap up the webinar here. Maybe spend the next 10 minutes on this. Let's talk about leadership. So I think one of the things that separates good companies from great companies, just to use that Jim Collins language, is often leadership. And certain leaders have the ability to break through those plateaus. And I think what you're going to talk about, I firmly believe in. So maybe talk a little bit about the leadership and how that transformed your all's company and you as a leader as well.
Correct. I always believed in this until I find the book make it more real for me. So this book called The Servant. It's my HR manager brought it to me and I read it and I said, that's it. This is exactly what I've been talking about and that's the way I want to leave. So in the past, there used to be this pyramid, a leadership style, sort of like a military style where soldiers are worried about what their superiors are going to think and say about them. Same thing for us. Used to be like, in our case, cleaners worrying about what their supervisors are going to think about them, and supervisors worrying about the managers worrying about how the CEO thinks about them, and customer is the king. But the leadership, or the servant leadership style, is totally opposite, where is CEO is worrying about serving their managers. In my case, I have 5 managers, and my job daily is to thinking what are ways my managers are better served. They have the right tools and resources, and I give a lot of attention to them. And how can I help you do your job better? They do the same for the people below them, which is the supervisors and van crew. And I always preach this. And the supervisors' job is not to worry what I think about them, but to worry if the cleaners have the proper tools and resources and understanding what are their daily tasks, so serving them, and ultimate the clients will be served. So that's what I do daily. We talk about this style in almost every meeting because we want the people to feel they're served, they're heard, and instead of the opposite. I remember a break point for me. It was a manager asking me like, Lily, I'm worrying, what are you going to think about me if I make this and this decision? And I said, don't worry about me, worry about serving people below you. And if they're happy and doing their right job, I'm going to be very happy with you. So worry about them. So it's been working out well. And I felt that my leadership team has the same mentality now. And if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend because
Yeah.
it works. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm reminded of something that Jesus said, that whoever would, something to the effect of, whoever would want to become
Hmm.
great must become servant of all, or least of
Yes.
all. And so this idea
Yep.
of kind of an upside down leadership style, that really a servant leadership, even though you're on the top, you're leading from the bottom, if you will. And it
Hmm.
creates a culture of people that want to serve each other, which at the end of the day makes the customer served best, and is the best way to become a thriving, profitable, long-term flourishing company, where
Right.
people thrive. And it's kind of counterintuitive on the face of it, but when it begins to work
Hmm.
itself out, you begin to see the fruits of it. So I totally agree with you. So let's wrap up here. Talk about how your culture and your core values, how that really has helped, how that's been a big part of what you guys are doing, and how that's helping to maintain this growth that you guys have had.
Sure. When I joined that group C12, I did again. I had the feelings and I talk about it, but I didn't have written down our core values and mission statement. So that group encouraged me to do so, to put on paper and to share with employees. And I know we already talk about this in our group. Some people in our group do an amazing job already implementing those. Some people are still in the phase of creating those. I'd say I created them in 2015, and I wish I have done even before that because it definitely impacts the company and impacts how you make decisions, how we hire, how we fire. Once we have that in our employee handbooks in our office wall, I see myself pointing up to the wall all the time, especially when you have issues too. So establishing that sets the tone for the culture and definitely helps. So we created our mission statement and our core values, which is in the wall of our office. I don't know if you have a picture of it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And so we do use that a lot to to run our company on a day-to-day basis. And then I remember somebody on the group asking, how do you make sure that throughout the company those values and mission statements are being remembered and being used. So we try to do many different ways, or maybe creative ways, in order to help people memorize. I remember one of our Christmas party, we had this puzzle on the table, and the group that put it together first and could say it out loud, memorize first, will get gifts. So I see that the company more and more often are using those as a references. So which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see your core values throughout the company.
Mm.
Um, you know, I know a lot of people already have those implemented, but making sure it's on the heart of your employees, on their daily decision, that's what make it worth.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, Lillian, if I'm gonna just kind of read between the lines here, as we grow and it gets past the spot where you as the owner can't make all the decisions anymore and you're trying to
Right.
learn how to delegate, there has to be a culture there that the people in the company believe in so that you can have the ability to trust other people under you. So if you know that you've got people that are in agreement or living this culture, you can have a good level of confidence that they're going to start making the kinds of decisions that you would want them to make. And
Right.
these values really end up, they become like a filter, an underpinning for all the decisions that are made in the organization. And so if you know that someone is holding to these values here, you also know that they're likely going to be making good decisions on your behalf when they're out in the field.
Right.
And that allows you
Yep.
to be able to take on that growth. So if you guys have any questions for Lillian, and Lillian, I have one question for you that you're not ready for, but a good interviewer should always surprise them. But I know that we have, um, both women and men on the conversation today, and and I know we even have many couples in our group that there's a husband and wife that own a company. And I know you were asked this question when you were interviewed at the C12 National Conference. Can you talk a little bit about, you run the company now,
Mhm.
and you're a woman and you're married, and it was your husband that actually started the company, but now you're in
Mhm.
that CEO role. But you
Mhm.
also, like me, we share certain more conventional values when it comes to marriage, okay, that are a
Mhm.
little bit countercultural, but it's something we both believe in as well. But we also
Mhm.
see men and women as equal. And so maybe talk a little bit about that relationship with your husband and how you guys maintain a good marriage
Mhm.
and avoid any sort of conflict about like power struggle, and that sort of thing. Maybe walk through that because I feel like you're a good example in this area.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Of course, it wasn't always like that. It was a learning curve, but I'm glad that we are in this spot right now. So, for me, I always used to say that you can't just be successful from 9 to 5 and not have a successful home, or go home and you're just fighting with your spouse. Didn't feel that that was a good lifestyle anyway. And I believe what the Bible says, that the man is like the head, and us women are the helper. But that doesn't mean that we are less or men is more. It's just when it comes to decision making. So I always say that I am a CEO here from 9 to 5, and then I get home, I have to switch a button and have let my husband lead the house. When I say lead the house, that doesn't mean I have to bow my head and agree to everything he say. No, that doesn't mean that. But he's the leader of our house, and that style has been working a lot because over there, let him, be the man that God created him to be, and I'm the woman that God created. I have my responsibilities at home as a wife and a mom, and he has a responsibility as a husband and a father. If I'm not stepping into his responsibilities, then he's not stepping to mine. We flourish. So in the beginning, it wasn't that easy, but as I read the Bible and go through other books and groups, I understand that that's God created him to be that way and created me to be this way. And I actually like when I get home, I don't have to be the decision making all the time, and I don't have to be a leader, and I have him that he's doing even a better job. So I let him be that. And really being the wife and not being the head really creates a good atmosphere in our house, and we establish good value for our kids. They can see that mommy has a company, and now dad is working with mommy on the company. But mommy really respects dad's position and responsibilities. So I think they understand how that works, and we definitely felt that we can connect and have a good family atmosphere and a husband wife atmosphere and then work atmosphere. When we are home, we try our best not to talk at work. We go on dates. We try not to talk about work. So like we always trying to make sure we have a healthy marriage and a healthy family lifestyle.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I think every family has to, figure out some of those things for themselves. But I appreciate that, and you guys are in a unique spot, so I think you're very well qualified to talk about this issue. And my parents were somewhat similar in that they both worked in the business and had different roles. And my mom was very competent in a certain area, and she kind of owned her sphere of things. And but my parents also had a great relationship, so I'm really thankful for um, to be able to see that as well. And so, when we see a lot of tension in our culture around a lot of things, it's nice for us in leadership to be able to set good examples for the culture around us. And I think for all of us that are here that are business owners, we've got a unique opportunity to have a significant influence. So, hey, so a question, and I actually thought about this too. And Doug, I appreciate you bringing this up about the core values. So Lillian, when I do core value talks, one of the things that I always encourage people to do is not to have more than 4 or 5.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and you guys have 7. Do you think that you guys might would pare that down at some point, or has it been good to
It's
have
so funny
that
that
many?
it's so funny that you mentioned that because I don't know if you've been through your C12 group, but it talks about your core values, and at the end of the meetings we have to do write our to-dos for next month. And my to-do for this month is actually to go by our core values and mission statement with our team and make it more simpler and smaller. So you're right. I just each one of them had like a meaning and reason why it was there. But now that we've been using for 4 or 5 years, we do want to make it easier and simpler to memorize. And you're so spot on. So it is on my to do this month on how to make that happen.
Yeah. Hey, so I got a couple other questions coming in too, Lillian. So one question,
Mhm.
and I think I'm reading this right, and Jerry, if I'm not, you can respond again. But um, and he mentioned that hiring his wife was the best decision he ever made, and I don't think that'd be the case for my wife and I. She told me that she would definitely not want to work with me, but which is fine. I think it's good. But they try to keep marriage and business in their proper boxes, which is great. So how do you at times people, and this may even be more prevalent when a husband and wife are both in the business, people that work under your leadership can often be hesitant to give you honest feedback. Because at the end of the day, you sign their checks. And I struggle with this at times as well. I think about this. How do you cultivate a culture in your company where you get open and honest communication and feedback in a place where people are not fearful to be honest with you about things in the organization?
Sure. That's a good question. So I do quarterly reviews with the management all the way to supervisors. And one of the that I do face to face with them. And one of the questions that I ask them every 3 months, like if you are the owner of Unique Pro, would you do something different? And when I ask that, and I always say that, feel free to share anything you want. This is not a conversation where your salary is going to be based off, promotion is going to be based off. This is just me asking you your honest opinion, and just telling them that made them feel more comfortable to share. And I did hear things that I agree, things that I didn't agree, but certainly open the conversation to a whole new level. So making them feel comfortable and ask that question. And every 3 months, they know they're going to be asked that question. So sometimes they hold until that day to tell you something. Um, that's one way that and also the way you react when they come to you. If you have, if you were diminishing of their ideas and what they say, they will be afraid next time talking to you. But sometimes they do come with great ideas that I do take in consideration in applying the company, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. I think, and again, I think to answer that question even more, Jerry, is I think this whole notion of servant leadership and that kind of upside down model
Mhm.
cultivates that environment where people are more open and honest. So when they see you as a servant of them, to help
Mhm.
them, they're going to be more honest with you as opposed to a dictator style of
Right.
leadership.
Right.
So another comment, Mike just said that he agrees that there is that plateau at that $1 to $3 million range, and that was true in their company. So I think that that's very consistent across the board, that plateau. So last question, Lily, and then we'll wrap it up here. You talked about working on the business and not in the business, and there was a transition period where that happened. And this is very, very common. And if I could pick one thing that keeps people back, it's the inability to get over this hump here of owner operator with your arms around everything to beginning to let go and start working on the business and not in it. Um,
Hmm.
Talk to me about breaking out of that real quick. So was it just a
Hmm.
mindset thing? Was people pushing you in that direction? Was it necessitated because you got a lot of new growth, or what caused that to happen? And you talk about that for just a second.
I think it was a little bit of both. A little bit of me understanding that if I don't let go, I wouldn't be able to grow, and hearing that many, many times. And second, had two small kids, a growing company, so I almost did not have an option. I'll give you a very good story to simplify that. I remember that I was all doing the sales by myself until I was pregnant and I had my son, and I'm at home with a newborn, and how I'm gonna do if somebody calls for me, to give a proposal. So I had this lady that she was doing like a cold calling. You know how when you hire someone just to do set up appointments for you. So
Hmm.
right before I had my child, I told her, well, for 3 months, would you mind being on the road? I'll teach you a lot of just to collect information. I still do the proposal, and I gave her like a month of training. She had some sales background, and during those 3 months, she closed contracts, and she got very good feedback. She did like a lot better than I thought she would. So sometimes, we underestimate someone that, oh, they'll never be able to do as good as me or as this other person. So hiring the person and letting them do their job, and it let go of the fears, like, oh, is this person doing the right way? Is this person doing my way? Or I remember my office manager would do things in a different way, but the result was the same. So I stopped micromanaging them, and of course, I would still collect the reports and checking on the results, but I wouldn't micromanage how they got there. If they're being efficient and they're being on time, there is no need for me to look how they're doing, why they're doing this way, and what they're using to do. I let them grow on their own on their own area, and that actually gave me some freedom. And I remember one day in one of those questions, like, if you're the owner of Unique Pro, what would you do different? And two of my managers said, like, in every single problems, issues that we have with our client, you're being CC on it, and most of the times you're answering the client, so you get involved with almost every issue, because I'm sure you like to be known what's going on with the clients and everything, but you can give us more power to resolve issues because we pretty much would resolve the same way, but without you being involved. And that was like a light bulb. It was like, oh, really? You want to fix all the issues for our clients, and I don't need to be more involved? And they said yes. So I let that happen, and it worked. So I was like, okay, great. So now I don't need to be involved with customers' issues anymore. I don't need to be involved with, day-to-day operations because they are taking care. And I just on weekly meetings, I get to know what's happening. So right now, I get to say that the company can run without me being there taking care of every single detail. So it actually gives you the freedom that you need to think outside the box and to run the company on the business, not in the business. That's what I meant.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, Lillian, thank you so much for being willing to share your story. And I know I asked you to do this at the last minute since our webinar got canceled last week. So I appreciate it, and I'm grateful that you're somebody that's leading in our industry and being vocal about that. So I really appreciate that. And for those of you all that are members in our group, I'll have this. This has been recorded today, and so I'll have a copy of that put up here in the next day or so. and you're welcome to rewatch that or share it or whatever. And I'm sure if any of you had any follow-up questions, you could always reach out to
Yep.
Lillian. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
okay, well, good. Yeah, so they've got your email address, and you can contact you on Basecamp and everything. So, well, listen, thanks for all of your time and for everyone being attentive today. And Lillian, thank you again, and look forward to connecting with everybody on our next webinar. And again, I want to encourage everybody to go out to Vegas for the convention in November, and hopefully we can hang out there as well. So have a great day, and we'll talk to everybody soon.